Welcome again to another series and episode of DEIB Small Talk. Today it is going to be Let's Talk Diversity and Equity. We'll be looking at transparency in promotion. I have with me an amazing guest speaker, Lydia Winn. I would just say let's meet her. And there's something interesting is out of all the speakers I have, Linda has a very straightforward biography. No drama, just straight to the point, and I like this. I like the simplicity. Okay, let's meet Linda. So Linda she currently serves as a sales director for Go Guardian, an ed tech company that enables students to learn digitally. She's passionate about equitable hiring practices as well as creating software that works for everyone to promote diversity. She nets out over K to 12 education and B2B sales and lives in San Francisco with her husband. Welcome me or join me as I bring on board Linda Wynn. Hello, Linda. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I must say that I have been like we've had a lot of speakers on the show, and when I read amazing things about speakers, I'm always flabbergasted. And I know we've had conversations, but I like the simplicity. Very simple, straight to the point, no drama. It's just like, let's meet Linda. This is what she. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate. To our audiences who are joining from Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, I'm not sure about that, but Facebook, yes, and LinkedIn and YouTube, also thank you as you begin to chime in. Don't forget to share the video, like the video, comment. We'll have time for questions at the end of the series. And what we want to talk about today is very sensitive and important, which is why I'm very interested. I'm very interested in this topic. I'm very excited. Okay, so let me just say, Linda, I know I have read your words now. I've read your biography, but just introduce yourself in your own words.
Thank you so much for the kind words. I am the director of sales development here at Go Guardian, and I'm just really passionate about K-12 education and making a difference for students. I believe it's the biggest lever that we have to change society for the better. And my other great passion is hiring amazing, diverse people, oftentimes giving them their first job in sales and seeing their careers flourish and take off. Those are the two things that light me up the most.
I'd say thank you. I just like the simplicity. I remember during our conversation when I was talking with you, like, what are you interested in? What are you going to talk about? And like, we're just going to talk about diversity, and that's just all. And maybe products, marketplace, software, education. I was like, yes, she knows exactly what her expertise are. Thank you very much. I do appreciate you joining me today. Okay, so today is just going to be very simple. It is going to be very straight to the point, and what we want to talk about is diversity and equity. I want to look at transparency and promotion. So one thing I would like you to first, or the first question that I would like to ask is, what is your own definition of diversity, and what is your definition of equity?
For me, diversity means having all different perspectives, backgrounds, and opinions represented in decision making. And did you ask what my definition of equity is?
Yes.
I really think of equity as opposed to equality as everyone having the unique different resources that they need to achieve their full potential. So instead of giving everyone the same resources, resources are tailored to essentially support the needs of any individual person until they're able to flourish and reach their potential.
there's been so much drama and so much questions and trend about equity and equality, then coming together with diversity and inclusion. So many people were beginning to ask, yes, we are now being given space to the table, but our contributions, our voice does not matter. I was listening to a podcast by Mita. I think I forgot her last name, where she was talking about how we are now being invited to the table, or we're saying the table is accessible to all, but the voice doesn't matter. And which is why today we want to look into that aspect for in promotion and how we can look at how the importance or the criteria for transparent promotion. But before we go into today's topic, and there's one question that I would like to know is what makes your role? I know you've been a director for the sales director for Go Guardian. What makes your role unique?
A few different things. The thing that I'm most excited about that is unique to my role is that I'm often hiring people who are new to sales. So this could be their first job in software, it could be their first job in sales. And so I have a unique privilege to bridge that gap between, say, being a K-12 teacher and working at a software company, or working in a completely different industry and stepping into sales for the first time.
I'm going to tell you this, Lydia. What actually makes this episode more interesting is that you're not HR.
Yes, definitely not HR.
Yeah, you're not HR, so we're not going to be looking into those strict policies or I would say organization policies that HR has to be very strict on. You're going to talk as you as a person, you're going to talk as you as a decision maker, and we're going to talk about as you. Like the perspective is unique, and I like that. So we're going to look into one thing. There's something you said in your biography that I want to highlight. You said you're passionate about creating software that works for everyone to promote diversity. Can you shed more light on that?
Absolutely. A key component of how we develop software at GoGuardian is we want to get feedback and research around people from all different backgrounds when we are in the ideation and development and testing phase. We want students from all different schools, from the smallest school in a rural area to New York City Department of Education, the largest school district in the country. We want students from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, of all different cultural backgrounds, people who maybe don't speak English as their first language. We want to capture as many different scenarios and situations in which our software will be used, so we can make something that works great in any situation for really any learner.
That's so good. And one thing, the interesting thing is the mix of technology and the mix of technology and education. And this is one of the things that became prominent after during pandemic, during COVID, and post COVID. And I would say that edtech, education technology is yet to stay. The software that Google Garden is building, is researching on is also amazing. I took a peek into what Google Garden does because not it's not just about me getting to know about my speaker, it's also getting to know about what they do, and it is interesting. Okay, so now we're going to go into today's conversation, which is transparency in promotion. Hmm. Okay, so we talked about the importance of transparency in promotion. What do you, or what would you say? Let's start from there. What would you say about that? What would you say about transparency in promotion?
I think everyone who's tuned into this stream probably shares a commitment to diversity.
Yes.
And one of the most powerful levers that I've realized over my career is that not everyone has the same expectations for what extraordinary work looks like, for what it might mean to show yourself as a potential candidate for management or for more responsibility. And making that explicit, readily available, easy to find in a company intranet, in your employee engagement system, wherever works best for the most number of your employees, is an invaluable tool, not just for employees who want to get promoted, But for managers to be held accountable, you have to constantly think about what does extraordinary performance look like as the needs of the business change and as priorities change. You have to make that explicit. You have to put in a system of measures for those things. And all of that is just best practices for managers.
Hmm.
You can't manage what you can't measure.
Yeah, you can manage what you can measure. I like that last phrase. But there's something that really got me thinking from our conversation earlier when you said that you also do hire and you try to bring in even people like the first job, college students, for instance, or people who are transitioning or changing their career. And that really got me interested as an hiring manager now. What best practices, taking out your word, do you put in place to also not just have transparency in promotion, but also transparency in your hiring culture?
Great question. The biggest best practice that I would suggest to anyone is get as much feedback as you can, not just from the person, the new hire or the new role will report to, but from their peers. So we use a hiring rubric and we do director, that's me, I'll interview, a manager will interview, and then their peers will do an interview. And all three of those parties weigh in on the rubric, weigh in on how those answers or how that information is evaluated. And getting all three of those perspectives has proved to be an invaluable best practice to really flesh out the ideal candidate profile.
Okay. So now let's assume you have 50 candidates. Does that look so much? Okay, let's say we have 20 candidates. You want to interview 10 out of those 20. How would you sort out the best while being transparent in your selection process?
That's a great question. The first question I would ask is, where did they come from? We always want to prioritize people who have, of course, come in through referrals to other employees. And we've had to look outside of that in order to recruit the most possible diverse audience. Referrals alone limit the kind of diversity that we can see. So we obviously want to make sure employees are encouraged to submit referrals and give those people the best possible candidate experience. But beyond that, we really are looking for people with diverse backgrounds who have shown care and attention in their application process. Have you written a cover letter? That makes a big difference. Have you connected with me on LinkedIn? I mean, that just shows you might be great at sales. And then, of course, I do my own outbound recruiting on LinkedIn. And when I'm looking for great candidates, I often look to people who, say, have a master's in education but are currently working in industry. Do they want to continue making a difference in education? And I can make a really compelling LinkedIn message around that.
I like that strategy. I do like that strategy because that is one thing I have always encouraged my hiring managers to also be proactive. Sourcing attraction or candidate attraction is not just the work of a recruiter. Can you hear me clearly? Can you hear me clearly? Okay. I want to make sure you can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay, that's fine. The microphone was like far away, so I wanted to make sure that was okay. Yes. Okay, so what I was saying is that I like the fact that you're also actively sourcing, trying to find the best candidate, not just positioned to whatever the recruiter sent to you. You could also make a good connection. You could have a very good candidate pool from your LinkedIn connection, for instance. And I like that strategy. I do like it. I encourage hiring managers a lot of the time to do the same. Okay, so now we're gonna go. That was just by the way. We're gonna go back to promotion because I'm very interested in that topic. So, what criteria do you choose from when determining your promotions? Let's be transparent.
Absolutely. So I'm pulling up the rubric right now. Um, we evaluate all of our team across, let me see, written out here, and I want to be accurate, across their achievement to goal, their professional skills, What behaviors and habits have they built and demonstrate day to day? And then what broader outcomes are they driving for the business? And we have those four criteria lined up, not just for people who are maybe a year into a role and ready for a promotion, but people who are 30 days on the job, 60 days on the job, and 90 days on the job.
That's interesting.
All four of those things should be top of mind all the time. So the time you're ready for a promotion, it's not the first time you're hearing about it.
Hmm. I like the fact that you are not limited by how long you've been on the job. Because some people, external candidates for instance, they're coming from a different world, from a different organization, and they're coming with some unique skills that probably they need to do more. So I like the fact that you are not limited by, oh, you just new here. Like I do have this a candidate I worked with some times ago because I do offer career coaching too. And he got into the job, and in 4 months into the job, he got promoted. And I was like, "Yee, one win." And in 6 months into that role, he got promoted again. I was like, "God, you winning it!" Like, what's going on? But one thing I discovered was it was the culture of the organization. It was the culture of the hiring manager. And that is why when you mentioned this, I just had to reflect and I was like, this is interesting. And one thing is, I don't think hiring managers have to be conditioned or restricted in their promotion structures. You could diversify, you could be unique. So what other, like, okay, if we're going to talk to HR leaders now, if we're going to give advice to HR leaders in terms of performance review or in terms of promotion determinants or determining factors, what would be your advice to HR or business leaders?
Oh my goodness. The most powerful thing for me was to sit down with my vice president of sales and talk about his priorities. What are the key results and strategies that he wants to see from my department and from the team overall, the entire revenue team this year? How can I work those things, the behaviors that will get us to those goals into the promotion criteria so that people are motivated to advance their own career and support the needs of the business? So I'll say it again, this is a fluid thing. It changes. I am looking at this every single quarter to make sure that our promotion criteria and what we're really encouraging reps to develop is in line with the broader mission of our organization.
I like that. Mm. No matter what strategy you want to bring in place, you cannot go out of the strategic plan of your organization. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, I just want to let everyone who is listening to us know that we are still here. We're talking about transparency in promotion. This is diversity and equity talk, the DEIB small talk. If you have questions, and do not feel free to ask your questions on the comment section. I will definitely highlight it and read it. Though I'm saying something coming in, but not questions. It's just recommendations, commendations, and we're here. So, and greetings. So, also thank you to all those who are listening, to our audiences wherever you are on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and even in Twitch, wherever you are. So, thank you for joining us. I'm with Linda Winn, and we are talking about transparency in promotion. Okay, I think this is going to be a very short session, but I do have another question on equity because we have been talking about equity in pay. It's a big question, it's a big issue, it's a sensitive one, but it is important to talk about. So, how would I put it? So, with the quality of diversity and the quality of DEI initiatives, efforts that we're seeing in organization, I know that organizations have really focused on bringing in diverse candidates. Like it's a huge focus. But looking into moving them across the ladder, there's something I call the fair ladder movement. I remember there was a time I was on a podcast with I think it's Dr. Melissa. Just one question. We also had something like this, a conversation around promotion, and I talked about the fair ladder movement. If you're listening and interested, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll share that podcast with you. And the fair ladder movement is just about having the same access, of course, and having the same movement based on your ability to all. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, if you're female or male, a manager knows when you are ready for promotion. If you are not ready, they know, and they can also put together action plan, development plans for you. And but if conversations are not hard, if you do not have conversation with these people, with your team members, they wouldn't know what you have in plan for them. So, which is something that is why I talked about the fair ladder movement. But now we talk about the quality of diversity and the quality of our initiative. Promotion is a little from it. We don't talk about promotions that much. We talk about bring them in, attraction. So now, how would you advise, or how feasible can we say? Or I don't know how to structure the question, but what would you talk about? How would you put together your own plan when we are talking about transparency now in promotion in regards to initiative or in line with the initiative of the organization, the DEI initiative? Do you understand the question, or should I restructure?
It sounds like the question is, how would I put together a plan to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in hiring for an organization?
No, in line with your organization initiatives, in line with your organization DEI
Oh,
initiatives.
yeah, absolutely. How would I put together a hiring plan that is in line with our really key diversity, equity, and inclusion priorities?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first thing in the plan is to really understand, diversity, equity, and inclusion is, it benefits way more than it benefits a company, I think, beyond most people's understanding. Companies that really promote and seek diversity are, by and large, the most successful and the most innovative companies. And so getting senior leadership aligned around what is the value of diversity and equity to them, and getting them bought in on that is the first thing I would do in a plan. Um, from there, I would get an idea of what are the key OKRs, so objectives and key results, or KPIs, key performance indicators, that these hiring managers are held to. In my case, I am a hiring manager, so I know those very well. So then the question is, how can we find people from all different backgrounds, from different industries, of different ages, of different ethnicities or genders? How can we find those candidates that are going to have the experience and the skills and the values that will get us to your objectives, your KPIs for this year? And from there, my biggest part of the plan is be prepared to go out and recruit. Um, Especially for diverse candidates, they may not think of themselves as an ideal candidate for the role as it's written on a job board, and they may not know anyone at the company who could refer them in. So I am a huge fan of LinkedIn Navigator and really putting together a profile based on the skills and experiences I'm looking for. And from there, I can easily find diverse candidates who have incredible backgrounds and reach out to them and use my sales skills to sell them on a role that they might not have applied for or even considered otherwise.
I do have a question about, I'm going to paint a scenario. I'm going to paint a scenario. Let's assume you have two, no, I'm not going to say two. Let's assume you have five team members. I'm not sure how many direct reports you have, but let's assume you have five. And in the five, you have two excellent team members. Of course, that happens a lot where you have high performance, and you have two high performance barriers, quality. You like They're almost like you've trained them to even take over your job. That is how good they are. I know this is a
Oh,
little bit,
good
isn't
grief.
it? But that is how good they are. And now we have just one spot, one opening to promote to the next stage. How would you decide? How would you decide? I'm going to say one is black, one is white. How would you decide? Or one is a person of color or Asian or anything. One is a diverse employee and the other is a white employee or non-diverse. I'm trying to be very careful with my structuring, but how would you decide your criteria for promotion?
I can actually share a real life example. So a lot of what I do at Go Guardian is we groom people to move into what we call closing roles. So they go from handling our inbound and our outbound leads to actually closing real business and revenue after that. And we have set up a whole criteria where people don't just talk to the hiring manager or talk to their peers. They also do a role play that would simulate their day to day at the job. And we have extremely transparent performance evaluations. I make myself available to practice with people before they go in and do the role play, which is recorded. And we have, a really pretty extensive rubric of how we evaluate those role plays when we're looking at promotion criteria. And we have rubrics that the hiring manager and their peers will fill out. So by the time somebody is far enough down the line, we're not necessarily looking at are they a diverse candidate or not. We have reinforced these are the criteria that you will be measured against, and we're able to just look at that data when making the final decision. If somebody's moving into management, my biggest thing is I want to give you an opportunity to drive results with your peers before you step into that management role. And then we can look at, okay, out of these two amazing candidates, who has driven the most significant results in their peers? And because we just reinforce that as the standard again and again and again, there's no surprises when a candidate is ultimately picked, regardless of their background.
If you're gonna advise another hiring manager or director or manager about how to structure their promotions structure, or how to outline, or I think outline is the right word, how to outline their promotion structures, what would it be?
I think the biggest piece of advice that has made a difference for my leadership is by the time I'm having a promotion conversation with people, it is not the first time they're seeing the promotion criteria.
Mm.
I really would advise companies to expose people to promotion criteria from their first week on the job so they have something big to reach for.
You're giving them a drive.
And exactly, it also allows them to structure every choice they make along the lines of what is going to move their career forward so they don't go down a particular rabbit hole or they don't lose focus as they develop the skills to get them where they want to go.
I like the fact that you said they don't lose focus, because sometimes you could have a team member that is very driven, has a lot of ideas, sometimes some strange ideas. I'm very sure you've probably met some of them that are very active, very proactive in what they do. They have this unique, I'm going to use the word unique now, unique ideas of or initiatives, and but you just know that this is not what we are focusing. So having that transparency in your criteria or in your selection processes or your promotion processes actually drives them, or let me say puts them in the right path. It does.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, I think there was a funny question that came to my mind, and I think I forgot, but I think I just remembered. And the question was, if you had an high performer that is overshadowing your duty or overshadowing your performance, how would you deal with the situation?
Oh, that is a great question. If somebody is so good that they are overshadowing my performance, I would hype them up. And that is one of my favorite things is to see people on my team coach with more nuance than I ever could, or sell with more nuance than I did when I was in the selling seat. I because we have call performance review software, I am a huge fan of grabbing that recording, sharing it out into our company intranet or a company chat device. I want to hype up that person because, in my experience, what makes companies great is retaining top talent like that and making sure they know they're seen and that their boss has their back 100%. And so one of the great privileges of my career is that I've supported, 4 people's move into management. And a lot of that came from boosting their executive presence when they were individual contributors with other managers and leaders of the company.
I like that. I like that question. I like that answer. Thank you very much. Well, because the question when we're talking about transparency and promotion, I would say what we're just from what I want to summarize what you've said so far, and my key takeaway is whatever your criteria or selection processes, be transparent, be open, because that would drive growth, that would drive even sometimes I'll use the word patience, because team members, employees are aware, they're self-aware sometimes, they know what skills they have and what skills they do not have, and that way they are able to develop or work with you as their manager to develop a working plan to help them gain those skills that they probably do not have. I do like that is my key takeaway for today. That's my key takeaway. Okay, I would say that we are coming to the end. Today is quite short. We're coming to the end of today's program, but before we go, I would like to ask you, do you have additional resources that we can share with the audience? I'm trying to catch my eyes for questions, but do you have additional resources, or like a blog that talks about promotion, or even your website or your company's website that we can um, refer candidates or people or audiences to? I think that would be a good resource.
Absolutely. So I encourage anyone listening to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm sure Florence will share that information in the chat. And I am a huge fan of greenhouse.com. It is our candidate management system that we use here at GoGuardian. And they have one of the best industry blogs I think I've ever seen. So I would, without hesitation, recommend just checking out the industry blog at greenhouse.com.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know we are a little bit time constrained today, but one more thing is fun fact. Something exciting about you. Fun fact about you.
I love that question. A fun fact about me is that I am a semi-professional roller skater. I
Ooh,
love to roller skate. It is my part-time passion.
I wouldn't have thought about that.
Nobody does.
I'm glad I like that. I like that. Thank you very much, Linnea, for joining us. We're gonna close the session with I'm gonna check if we have questions, and none for now. But this is a recorded session, so our listeners, our subscribers, can always go back to listen to the show and or the series. And if you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. I can always transfer that over to Linnea. You can find her on LinkedIn on Linnea. Wait, the same name she uses. Nothing. She doesn't. She doesn't have. I would like put it. She doesn't have. I think you use the same name. No preferred name. So it is Lydia Winn. That's correct. Yes. So and that is exactly what you find on LinkedIn. She's unique. I like you. Thank you very much, Lydia. Thank you for joining us today. So we're just gonna close this with one sentence advice now to HR and business leaders. It could be anything, it could be outside the topic, but just one sentence advice that if you would be in that room, the decision making room, and you want to say this thing, but you couldn't say it, now you can say
Ah,
it straight out to them and tell them straight to their face right now.
here it is. Share what greatness is early and often, and people will surprise you.
Wow, I like that. Share what greatness is. I think coming from education background is why you have this unique perspective of development. I believe so. I believe so. Yes.
No, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you very much, Lindy, for joining us today. Thank you. I really do appreciate. I will just see you in a minute. I'm going to close the session now. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. And today, this wraps up today's episode on DEIB Small Talk. Let's talk diversity and equity, transparency in promotion. If you are just joining us today, thank you. If you are a returnee, audience, thank you for joining us. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share this link, share this episode with your friends, colleagues, HR business leaders. Follow us on LinkedIn. It's also Boulevard Talent Division. Follow me on LinkedIn. Also, it's Florence Idowu. And I look forward to having another episode next week. Thank you. Enjoy.